Oh, Deron Williams
Deron
was
Williams was
bad.
like, I feel maybe this is a little blasphemous, maybe it's a little bit of a reach, but he was like how we view Dame Lillard right now for like 4 seasons.
Oh, I feel like that's a
Maybe Dame was a little better.
smidge bit of
Yeah,
a reach.
Dame was.
Yeah.
But the conversation was who's the best point guard in basketball, Chris Paul or Deron Williams.
Yeah.
Now that seems ridiculous. Then it was legit. Are you team Deron Williams or are you team Chris Paul?
Yeah. Who is the comparison for Deron? As James Ham joins us here of the Kings Beat is
I don't even introduce James
ESPN
anymore.
1320 Kings Insider James Ham. James, you lived through Deron Williams. Who is Deron Williams today? You know, well, you know who.
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's what I was gonna say. Is it 5?
It might be.
Is it De'Aaron Fox?
No. Because Fox is way faster. Way
Well,
faster.
I'm just saying, like the way he's viewed, like his ranking on the list of point guards today.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's like Brunson is one who he reminds me of as far as a player.
Oh, that's a good one.
Good one.
Yeah, or like Malcolm Brogdon with a little bit more game, like good Malcolm Brogdon, not the one that we've seen like the last year, like pre-injury Malcolm Brogdon. I don't know, like I have a like slightly jaded view of Deron Williams. Yeah, because like his last couple of years were a mess, right?
Yep.
And so basically, I mean, Jerry Sloan, he won the battle and Jerry Sloan quit because of him. And having him like going into a locker room, that Jazz locker room was a mess. It was a mess. So like I remember interviewing someone right next to, I'm trying to think who it was. Maybe it was like Matt Harpering, somebody. Maybe not. We were interviewing someone next to Deron Williams, and it was post game, and Deron was waiting for his chance to talk. But instead of like sitting there waiting respectfully, he decided to put his headphones on and loudly recite explicit lyrics while we were trying to have while cameras are rolling in the stall next to him, and really like basically making anything that his teammates said like not viewable for television, because his voice was in the background popping off with very explicit lyrics. And then the second it was his turn, he pulled his headphones off and was like a choir boy and ready for his questions. So like I've seen stuff like that a couple of times in the locker room, but he was one of the prime examples of guys that were probably like disrespectful towards like the process and towards his teammates in that setting and towards the media, and like shockingly disrespectful. So like, and then just the way he ran basically Jerry Sloan out of the building, that was tough too. Cause you know, when growing up, Jerry Sloan is this like one of the toughest, like he's like the Clint Eastwood of head coaches. You know, he's this grizzled dude who doesn't take anything from anyone, broken nose, tough guy. And then to see him like late in his game and really like having problems with a singular player, that seemed to me like it was like not the way you want to go out in the league, especially for a legend.
Who's the Clifton Powell of head coach? Never mind. You're listening to
Shout out to
D-Lo
my boy.
KC.
I'm gonna get Clifton Powell on the show, man.
We got time. We got time. You're listening to D-Lo and KC on KIFM West Sacramento, 98.5 FM KRXQ HD2 Sacramento, ESPN 1320. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Our 1320 Kings Insider and creator of the Kings Beat, James Ham, kind enough to join us here today as the Sacramento Kings wrap up their first part of the NBA season. And we'll start with last night's game, a loss to the Phoenix Suns. Hammer, what were your takeaways from last night's game?
I know I'm gonna like get shade for this. Like people aren't gonna like it.
Yep.
My takeaways were, man, you probably should have gone out and got a backup center at the deadline. Man, you should have got more length at the 3-4 at the deadline. Man, you might have want to address the backup point
And,
guard position at the trade deadline.
well,
Those were things that popped into my head while I was watching the game, while Kessler Edwards was on the court and Keon Ellis. And
James, what would the backup center have done yesterday?
maybe slowed, giving you a different look than what you had, and slowed DeAndre Ayton slightly. I don't know. Those are just like while I'm watching, that's what like instantly popped in my head. Like this Suns team is missing Kevin Durant and Landry Shamet and like some players, Cameron Payne, right?
Mhm.
Like this Suns team is going to be better 2 weeks from now than they are today, and the Kings are who they are.
So
Like-
the Kings, but here's the deal. When people say that, you mean to tell me the Kings will be able to hang with the Suns if they got Mason Plumlee or Josh Richardson?
Well, I mean, you had holes that you could have worked with.
I just don't think
just-
they'd
They're
be.
not
I
hanging
just
with-
don't
they're
think
not
they'd be
hanging
on
with
the floor.
Suns with those two players.
I think that's what we just keep getting stuck on is in a tight game. Like when would they have been on the floor? Like Domas played a ton of minutes last night, and I think part of it is you're in the game. I think Mike does a great job of coaching in the feel of the game. I don't think there would have been room for them.
I mean, that's always going to be the question, right? Like whether like acquiring players just to acquire players doesn't make sense. Acquiring players that can't get on the court, it doesn't matter how good a guy is defensively if he can't play, if he's not on the court, right? Like it's the KZ Okpala thing. Like it doesn't matter if KZ Okpala is one of your best defenders. If he's not good enough to play, he's not good enough to play. So like, just my concern again is that you just faced two teams that are competing with you for the 3, 4, 5, 6 spot, and you didn't have an answer for JaVale McGee on Friday, Saturday, and you didn't have answers for some of the things that are going to be problems. And that's all. Like this Kings team is good, and they're battling, and they're fighting for their spot in the standings. But that doesn't mean that their roster is perfect or that they couldn't have been better. And I think that's the biggest point. Like if you had an opportunity to get better, like you get better, because that's what the other like 8 teams in your conference that were hoping to battle for a playoff spot, or 7 teams, take out Denver, they all look to get better, and most of them did.
So Ham, what do you say to the reports that the Kings did try to get better, and they were trying to get Jared Vanderbilt, and kind of got the rug pulled from under them when Utah went with a different deal with them? I mean, like that was the thing. Like, man, you didn't go out and get better. You didn't go and get better. It takes 2 to tango. Like you can inquire all you want. If somebody's doing a deal with somebody else, there's not. What did we hear last week about Mason Plumlee? Like they
Charlotte
wanted
him
to
to a contender.
to the contender.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do about that if you're a money contender?
But if you're the 3 seed, you're the 3 seed, or you're not the 3 seed. Like
Well,
we can't.
general managers don't see Sacramento as a contender,
and we can't do
no,
that
I get.
because all year. No, we can't do that though, Ham. Because when I'm in like, yo, they're in 3rd place. People are like, well, it's only because the West.
they're a week away.
Yeah. So we're not gonna switch it up now. We're not gonna act like they're a contender when this trade discussion comes up.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like if you're gonna fight the good fight and say that you think that they are that team, then like when that's brought up, like at the end of the day, if you gave Charlotte more than an $11 million expiring contract and 1 second-round pick, they're gonna take the deal. They're not gonna value a player that's been there a year and a half over assets. And we can talk about like what the Kings got done, what they didn't get done. Like if the deal is better with some other team, then you have to increase your offer. That's the way the game works. That's the way trades work. And you can't convince me that you didn't have more to offer for Thibault, because I can quickly give you a deal that would have been better for both Charlotte and potentially for the 76ers, especially if you would have done the deal earlier and used your trade exception. You could have completely wiped out the need for one of those teams to have to give up a player. Like you could have done a deal to get Mason Plumlee where you gave up Alex Len and like a $2 million player, and the salary cap works, right? So as opposed to taking back an $11 million contract that you bought out in Reggie Jackson, you could have taken $8 million in contract or $6 million in contract and bought those out and saved money and got your second round pick out of the Kings for Mason Plumlee, and put Mason Plumlee in a situation where he's playing with Jay Triano, who, he played for last year. So like those are deals where, like, look, at the end of the day, if you don't close the deal, you don't close the deal. Like, we don't know all the deals that were out there. Of course the Kings were trying to make trades. Like, of course they were. I'm not saying that they weren't. I know that they were in on Thibault until the last second, and they thought they had Thibault and didn't get him. And so at what point do you have to figure out a way to sweeten the deal and make sure you get a guy? And, that's going to be up to the Kings to manage their assets the way they want to manage them.
There's got to be a fine line between sweetening a deal, and the deal becoming bad. That's a fine line for Monty to walk.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree that there's a fine line to walk, but the game is to improve your roster. That's the ultimate goal. And you don't want to mortgage the future like what we saw some of these teams do, completely mortgage their future. That's not what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Adding a third second-round pick isn't mortgaging the future when we saw what the Kings did with their second-round picks last year and the year before. That's not. So, yeah, I think my point is, could they have done something? We're acting like all of a sudden there wasn't a single deal that the Sacramento Kings could make to improve their roster. That's just BS. It's just not accurate. Like, they got beat out for deals that were sitting there. These players that we bring up that could have potentially been there for the Kings, the reason why we bring up some of these players is because they actually had conversations. We know that they liked Baisley. We know that they liked Thibault. We know that they liked Vanderbilt. We know that they liked Plumlee. Like, those are deals where they were there, and every single one of those players got traded, just not to you, which means either the deal got way too steep for you and they were charging you some weird Kings tax, which doesn't make any sense because it's a trade deadline. Like, everyone's trying to either get better or get worse. That's the way the trade deadline works. Collect assets for players that are better than what the asset is today, or like try to get better. And so, like, look, I don't think they just didn't close deals that probably made sense and that we know that they like the players.
That's fair. That's fair. I'd look at a game like last night. I just don't think that Mason Plumlee was an X factor. I think the fact that you turned the ball over 17 times that led to 25 points for the Phoenix Suns is the reason why you lost last night.
I'll give Ham this too, in terms of what Ham's talking about, improving the roster, because we talked about it earlier. That bench was rough last night.
Yeah, rough.
Bench was rough. Outside of Terrence Davis, that bench was really bad last night, James.
I mean, you turned to Kessler Edwards and Keon Ellis in the third quarter of a very crucial game.
If you blinked or went to the bathroom, you missed Keon Ellis. He was there. It's true. We can confirm. But if you just happened to be, drinking a glass of water in that moment, you missed it.
He came in, he fouled someone, he went out. And it was the final 23 seconds or something like that, right? But at the same time, Kessler Edwards went in the game for longer than that. And I don't hate what he did. Like, I thought, man, he does move well. He can defend on the perimeter. He is long. He reminded me a little bit of KZ Okpala, just like a more developed, like bigger version. Like, as far as weight, he probably outweighs KZ by 10, 15 pounds. That's what I thought. I'm like, okay, but like, you don't have time to tinker. And there was some tinkering going on in that game where you looked at the final, you looked at your bench and thought, okay, where am I going to go? And I don't, Mike Brown had to tinker at some point, but he doesn't have, he doesn't have a proven shot blocking, agile big that he can put in the game. He's got, Alex Len, who hasn't played in months. And he's got Rashawn Holmes, which sort of seem like they're not going to go to hardly at all here.
Well, Chimezie can't go out there and do nothing.
Right.
The key, like Kessler Edwards, like hey, all right, but we outlined this when he was traded. He hasn't played. He's barely played this year. I think the last time he'd been on the floor before last night was like December 10th. I think it was. It was a while ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, he didn't play in Brooklyn, so I get he's got to get back out on the floor. Chimezie can't go out there and do nothing, and that's what he did.
And there's two different conversations here right now because Kessler and Keon probably aren't playing if they have their best bench player available. Like those minutes are probably Terrence Davis minutes. Terrence Davis had to take Monk's minutes, so that's why he went a little deeper into the rotation. If Malik Monk is there, you probably get more production from the bench, and you probably don't even play those two guys. And the guy that's probably been one of the most consistent guys off the bench all year had a bad game. Trey Lyles had a bad game. He was 1 of 7. I think he had 4 points. He didn't play well. It happens.
I know you hate this. Malik was a +5 yesterday. I said that just to piss you off. Terrence was a +5.
Hey, damn, Malik +5. Inactive.
Terrence was a +5 yesterday.
God damn, plus minus.
Plus minus. Yeah, I mean, but did the plus minus of De'Aaron Fox versus Davion Mitchell, I'm just going to tell you, it looked like the right plus minus, right? So yeah. I think sometimes the plus minus, it doesn't work with what the eye test tells you. And then sometimes you look at it and go, okay, the second De'Aaron Fox stepped off the floor every single time, it was like, oh, there goes any lead you had, and there goes a gigantic deficit.
Russell Westbrook would fix that.
He would fix that.
Yeah, he'd make the pluses pluser and the minuses minuser.
It's terrible, James. It's a Hall of Fame basketball player right there.
Depends on which version you get from one night to the next.
Well, I'll tell you what he's going to do, though. He's going to bust his ass every time he's out there on the floor. And to be clear, I believe Russell Westbrook is going to the Los Angeles Clippers. But if y'all keep screaming about backup point guards, there is a potential point guard out there, and his name is Russell Westbrook. Monty, if you're listening, get on the phone. I don't think you've got a shot, Monty, but get on the phone anyways.
Yeah, we just had that question. We went through all of the names in the buyout market or that could be in the buyout market. Is there anyone you guys like for the Kings? I mean, because Pat Bev has been bought out, right?
No.
Stanley Johnson was bought out.
I would like for them to take a shot at Stanley Johnson.
What about John Wall?
Not at Stanley Johnson. It's the Kings.
Okay, so you got John Wall. You got Russell Westbrook.
I actually don't hate the John Wall
I'm
idea. I don't hate the John Wall idea.
Okay, Nerlens, which is still probably going to get bought out. He hasn't been bought out, but there's a good chance now that the Weissman deal happened, because he's hiding out in Detroit. There's a better chance that he gets bought out because with Weissman and Jalen Dern and Isaiah Stewart and Marvin Bagley and all that, they don't need him. And they're not going to pick up his contract.
I think it's worth pointing this out, and these are fine conversations to have. But when you look around at like guys who have been Reggie Jackson's, they're signing in Phoenix, in Dallas, in Denver, Milwaukee, but like they're signing on teams they feel like they have a chance to win a championship. I believe Russell Westbrook's going to feel like he has a chance to win a championship with the Los Angeles Clippers. Unfortunately, as much of a feel-good story as this is, as good of a team as I believe the Sacramento Kings are, I don't think someone in that market who has the ability to literally go wherever they want to is going to sign in Sacramento.
I agree. I mean, I
think all those guys you just named are going to get offers. John Wall, I don't really know. I like the idea of John Wall. John Wall has showed clearly he's not washed. Like, he could still play ball. Can he do what you want him to do? He could score a lot more than Davion Mitchell can. He can't guard like Davion Mitchell, so there's a trade-off.
Right.
But he can score.
We keep crying about defense.
Yeah, and the other guy was Will Barton. I like Will Barton too. Like,
sure.
Yeah. Like all of these guys, but like that's always the problem. Like I know a lot of people, the first thing they said, hey, jump in the buyout market. And it's like, okay, when was the last time the Kings signed someone in the buyout market? And then their answer was the same answer that we had earlier. Well, the Kings weren't the third seed in the Western Conference. It's like, okay, like that's fine. Let's go ahead and let's make a bet on how many players are going to sign here in the buyout market.
The Kings are still not perceived as the third seed in the Western Conference. They are, but they're not perceived as the third seed in the Western Conference.
Which is why you couldn't get Mason.
TNT is going to go out of their way to not talk about the Kings being in the third spot when they talk about the standings in the Western Conference this weekend.
Which is why you didn't. One of the reasons why you didn't get Mason Plumlee.
Probably, yeah.
Because you're not, like, I think they're the third seed. I don't think they're looked at as a championship contender. And if they had the things they were trying to do.
It doesn't matter what Charlotte says. Like, if you offered them more than what they got, they're going to go with the deal. Like, they'll toe this company. Oh, we wanted to get Mason. We have so much respect for him. We want to get him to the right spot.
More than 4 second-round picks. Like,
well, see, that's right. That's
what's more.
No, Mason Plumlee. No, they got 1 second-round pick.
So what, you want to give them 3? Like,
no, they got.
Are they really going to be like, well, they're giving us 2 second-rounders, so we're going with that deal? No, they'll send them to the Clippers. No, they won't. Not for 2. Like, to change their mind, you're probably talking 3 or 4. And what are we talking about at that point for Mason Plumlee?
Wait, I'm confused. Why?
All things considered, if they got 1 second-round pick from the Clippers to send Mason there, and the Kings said we'll give you 2, they were not taking the Kings deal. That's not enough. Like, to sweeten the pot, to be like, man, this is just too much. It would be 3 or 4. And what are we doing giving up 3 or 4 second-rounders for Mason Plumlee?
No, that's just not the case. Like, if they got 1 second-round pick, a second-round pick actually has value. Like, if they had 1 deal with 2 second-round picks, 1 deal with 1 second-round pick, they're taking the deal with 2 second-round picks.
Not enough. If Damian's my man's, and that's my man, and this other guy on the street is offering me 2, but this is my guy, don't trip, Dame. That 2 is there. I'll do it for 1 because you're my guy. Yeah, Jerry West, Mitch Kupchak, you're my guy. I'll do it for 1. It's good. 2's not good enough.
Yeah. I don't think there's any.
You got to make them an offer they can't refuse, and that's kind of what I feel like it was.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When we're talking about collecting assets at the trade deadline for a team that's at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, they're collecting assets. They don't really care. It's a nice story after the fact that we wanted to send him to the right place. Whatever. The guy was there for a year and a half. He wasn't there for 5 years. I mean, like Mason Plumlee was. They traded for him. He was like a short-term rental.
I do think the Mitch Kupchak, Jerry West thing has validity to it.
That's possible.
Part of the game. Like, that's part of what this is.
Yeah, but like we talk about that, then, the Kings didn't get the deal done with Monty McNair and his guy, Daryl Morey, with the 76ers for Thibault. So,
you said they were in on it. They thought they were going to get it. I don't know what happened.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, this is business. It's not about, like, if you have an option to get better, and whether that's assets or whether it's like a player, you go with what's better. We're not seeing NBA teams giving away things to their friends just to give things away to their friends.
I'm sorry. Pau Gasol is on the line. They want to have a conversation. Lakers Pau Gasol trade is on the line. Okay. Okay. How about this, James? When did DeAndre
horse? Is that what we're doing? Poor dead horse.
When did, and I don't know why we always like let's not have dog fights or beat horses.
Who's in the catbird seat?
Let's leave birds. Let's leave animals out of this. When did DeAndre Ayton become Kareem Ayton-Jabbar? The stat sheet said he was 13 of 17 last night. I'm convinced he didn't miss a single shot.
Yeah,
he hit everything. Like, they got, like, Chris Paul was in a groove last night. Like, they looked good last night, Hammer.
They ate you alive in the mid range.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what to make of that. Like,
7 threes for Phoenix last night.
Yeah, did Devin Booker even take one?
He did not.
Yeah, Devin Booker didn't take a 3.
0 for 0.
That's a very, very good scouting report by the Phoenix Suns and a team that bought into the scouting report and lived it. That's what that was. Like, first of all, the thing that impressed me with Aiden, and I've been hard on Aiden. Like, I don't, again, he is probably a top 10 center in the NBA, but like how high up that list, I don't know.
He's quietly had a very nice season, by the way.
Good.
I thought his decision making last night showed me like huge progress in him. He caught the ball, turned and fired. Even in the mid-range, like there were moments where it was like, holy cow, did you see how fast he got that shot up? Those are things that he hadn't done. Like his mid-range jumper like was spectacular. He literally like just looked like he watched Thomas Bryant against Domantas Sabonis. Like he read the scouting report, he saw that game and said, "Oh, I can do that. Like all I got to do is like just turn around and hit the open jumper." Okay, I'm game. So yeah, like the Kings, again, we're talking about the scouting report on these guys. You got to figure out ways to beat teams, and there's plenty of tape on the Kings at this point, and we're seeing centers go in and shoot over the top of Sabonis. That he needs more help. That's what he needs. He needs help at the 4. He needs help at the backup center position. He just needs more help. Even if it's guards collapsing and giving some resistance on the backside to Ayton on some of those plays, whatever it is, you got to figure it out, because that to me was, they just ate the Kings alive in the pick and roll. I mean, Chris Paul had 9 first quarter assists. He just picked them apart. And then he went to work and started hitting his mid-range jump shot. And again, that was because the Kings tried to make an adjustment on the big, and he just ate them alive.
Yeah, it's just one of those games, man.
Yeah.
The Suns play better. I mean, we talk about all the things that the Kings didn't have and what they did. They still were right there with about 5 minutes to go. They missed some shots. There was a couple of shots by Chris Paul that's not a scouting report shot. Like he hit some nasty fall away shots. Devin Booker hit some nasty fall away shots. A couple of the Kevin Huerter threes didn't go. Yeah. Trey Lyles, it's the game. It's sometimes it's not a big sweeping indictment on the roster, the players, the other team, anything like that. Like you play a game, somebody wins and makes shots. And
they didn't revoke Deron and Domas' all-star status last night.
Like you play a game.
I hope not. They had 35, 24, and 15.
Right. You play a game, you lose. Phoenix hit some big shots last night. They played really well, and they won that game. That's all it is.
Yeah, and I look at like hear people in the chatty house saying, "Hey, Domas has to be better on defense." Like you have to understand that Domas' job is not to defend the opposing center for 48 straight minutes, or even for the 36 minutes that he's in there. He has all these other responsibilities to have like weak side help and to support his teammates in specific ways, to play in the pick and roll. There are all these different aspects. And the fact that the Kings don't have guys that are stepping up alongside him, that they don't have guards and forwards that are keeping players out of the key, that are breaking down the Kings defense and then creating space for his player to get, 2 feet of space to get a shot up. Like those are things that have been that Mike Brown has had to deal with all season long. Like you can even look at the fact that teams hit a bunch of threes against the Kings, right? That's a conscious decision from Mike Brown to try to protect Domantas Sabonis from getting in foul trouble. So his guards and his wings they keep letting guys get to the middle of the key. Sabonis gets caught in rotation, gets foul calls against him, has to go sit on the bench. How do you stop that? You sink your defensive players back a step and give up more options on outside the 3-point line to protect Sabonis in the middle. And that's not because Sabonis is a horrible defender. It's because a lot of the players around him aren't keeping their guys out of the key. And then we add to that the rebounding aspect where Sabonis has all of these responsibilities as a rebounder. Man, like Harrison Barnes had 2 rebounds last night, and one of them came really, really late in the game. He's averaging 3.5 rebounds over his last 25 games. Like, where did you go? You were the second leading rebounder on this team, and all of a sudden, Keegan Murray stepped up and started grabbing a few more rebounds. Okay, you needed Keegan Murray to step up and start grabbing more rebounds to help the team, Not so Harrison Barnes doesn't have to grab rebounds. Or like it's like there's some aversion to rebounding on this team out of nowhere, which they were, again, one of the best defensive rebounding teams in the league for about 40 games. Teams have made adjustments. They're pushing the envelope on the Kings because they see they're scouting them in a different way than they did at the beginning of the season. There's more tape on them at this point.
Well, they did out-rebound them yesterday. They did
Dallas
out-rebound
didn't
them.
make no
We'll step out. We'll come back. We'll talk more with James Ham. Probably not agree on anything, but we'll talk Kings basketball here on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320.
This cake has been staring at me in my eyes.
Just talking to you. Come on, Kenny. What you waiting for? Montes bonus only gets
45 rebounds.
This is the second time I've seen this. I didn't. The Suns announcers are puzzled by Kevin Huerter being in the 3-point contest.
Yeah, that was slightly strange.
Do better.
It's all right, guys.
I think they're a little angry that Devin Booker didn't get in the All-Star game.
I can see that.
Yeah, and that Devin Booker isn't shooting threes. We were talking about this too on the pod. Anthony Simons, like, he's probably out.
Yeah.
So, are they gonna bring someone else in, or do you think maybe they call Keegan?
They should call Keegan.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a dude who's shooting 42% from three. So.
That's a few too many Kings.
They have Kata's there too. You know, we forget about that.
Yeah, I was wondering that is that so that goes on this weekend too?
Yeah, it's before the All-Star game. It's Sunday morning before the All-Star game.
Come on, man. Come on.
A Damian Lee in? What?
Good Lord.
And I thought Huerter was pretty good against them. Like, I mean, didn't he hit 4 threes?
They don't watch the league, man. That's what a lot of these people don't do.
Yeah, apparently not. As James says, Kevin Huerter's on the Atlanta Hawks, according to the NBA.
Yeah, come on.
He is.
The league don't watch the league.
Well, I think it was the league that had was it Keegan Bradley making his Kings debut?
I mean,
standout rookie Keegan Bradley.
It's the same league that put up Chris Murray's picture on draft night.
It's the same league that invited Karl Malone to the All-Star game.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't invite John Stockton.
Yeah, right? Exactly. Hey, we draw a line at COVID, but pedophilia, hey, that's okay.
There are some lines we don't cross. Like, okay, like how do you? I mean, you're in Utah. Like
Mike, statutory rape in here is no problem, but anti-vaxxers,
yeah. And my question too: do they pull down the anti-racist, the 1-800 hotline that they have, the giant banner in the corner of their arena for All-Star Weekend? Because it looks like it was.
They leave that up when Burna Boy performs.
Yeah, you got to remind them. Got to remind them here.
Got to have the tip line up.
I'm not saying they should be punished. But I don't know how they got an All-Star game. Like, that makes no sense. It makes no sense. They went to.
Say this is the first one in 30 years. Is that what it said?
93 was the last one.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, they got no business. Especially when there's places that haven't gotten an All-Star game. I'm not even talking about Sacramento. They could have went to Portland. I'm surprised Portland's never got an All-Star game. What are you doing going to Salt Lake City?
And that Nike employee store would be flooded.
Right. It would look like Safeway yesterday.
In the flower section.
The place was madhouse. An absolute madhouse.
Getting there last bit. Those flowers were 4 times the price yesterday than they are today.
That place was a madhouse.
John Poles, no, I don't know who Burna Boy is.
James, that's okay. That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, so that performance is made for TV. They might as well do that like the what is the Firefly Funhouse when he played John Cena? Just do it like that. He don't need to be in front of them people.
I wonder if the Grammys thing was taped.
With Hove?
Yeah.
Probably.
They just tape it the night before?
Probably so. Everything was a little too naked.
It's too perfect.
I know they block off a lot of the area, but still.
Yeah, super quiet.
Yeah.
That's tough.
I've been to Salt Lake. I don't get where all their hotels are that Sacramento doesn't have. I'm confused. And yeah, they've got a big school right there that you can do events at and stuff. But I mean, Sac State, Davis, there are plenty of event places in Sacramento that you can do.
What they say one time, do the All-Star game here and just take everybody to Napa.
Well, they were pitching. Chris Granger pitched a Sacramento Napa and have like a shuttle bus that goes back and forth with fans. So, and they also pitched bringing a cruise liner or two.
I think the Olympics did that, right?
The Delta.
I feel like the men's basketball team stayed on a cruise ship for one of the Olympics. I can't remember which one.
Oh, they did that in Rio.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're back. Yeah, we're back. I think I just figured it all out. We welcome everybody on the Odyssey app, 1320 AM, 98.5 FM, HD2. If you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate you. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe buttons. I just figured out the All-Star thing. If we loan James's boats to the NBA, they could dock like they did in Rio and All-Star game here in Sacramento.
That's a good call.
I don't have no covered boats.
Would you be willing to loan your 3 boats to the National Basketball Association? So
I've got no covered boats. It wouldn't help. Yeah.
I was thinking about the
at least 2 teams could stay at Ham's house.
Well, that's for sure. And then the other 4 could stay at your house.
That's cap.
Nobody's staying in my house.
Well,
my house isn't that big. Come on.
The hell he is.
That's funny.
I was thinking about the cruise ship thing too. I mean, it's not going to happen, but there's a different way to get the cruise ship downtown because they can't get it past the Tower Bridge.
No, you can take it up the Delta. There's a way to get a cruise ship. There are container ships and stuff that come up the Delta. There's a way to do it. A cruise ship can fit all the way up there. They had an area to dock it and everything. I don't know.
They should do it.
The Port of Sacramento. See, there we go. That's what it was.
The Port of Sacramento.
Port of Sacramento. The tour. No, Bryce says the Tower Bridge opens. It doesn't open. It raises, and it doesn't raise higher than a cruise ship.
A cruise ship is huge. Yeah. I
We'll
still don't understand.
Just book it. We'll figure it.
Just book it. If you're going to Salt Lake City, you can go anywhere.
That's facts.
Yeah. I would also there's a couple of towers that are being built in Sacramento, a couple of big apartment complexes. If you can, or whatever their lofts or whatever they're doing, if you can build those buildings for an event like that, then convert them afterwards, then that works as well. So, but you have to have everything building at once.
There's a high-end Marriott that's being built too.
Yeah, they also the Hyatt just got built. There's a small Hyatt right by the arena now, on the corner, right around the corner.
The one downtown, they got a little rooftop, something I heard about. I'm going to have to go check that out in the springtime.
I think that's what we're talking about. It's the same one. It's it's on the corner of 7th and L. Right by the Starbucks, right past the Starbucks on the corner. They converted an old hotel.
Yeah, for sure. I've been in now. That's a nice hotel. Well, I've been in the lobby. That's really nice. I think there's another rooftop joint. What's the old one that people used to stay at? The teams. I think Kobe got sick.
Oh, Sheridan.
Not the Sheridan. The other one that's right across from the Capitol. What is that?
Isn't it the Sheraton?
No, the Sheraton's next to the convention center. The one on the other side of the Sheraton. It's basically on the other side of the Sheraton.
I know. I
And it's
visualize it.
facing
I can
the
visualize
Capitol.
it. I don't remember what hotel it is.
The Sheraton's
Yeah.
next to the convention center.
They're saying the
Hyatt?
Hyatt. The Hyatt Regency. The Hyatt
Yeah.
Regency.
Good call, Chetty House.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what we're doing right now.
Why did he picture? Where did that come from?
Where's next year? Is next year Indy?
Yeah. Geez.
Oh man,
it's nasty, bro. It's
got
nasty.
the skywalk. You can walk to everything. Good God.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that they're missing is that California weather this time of year. I mean, it's cold for
Yeah, it's
us.
a bad
We're
example
like,
to say, but yeah.
we're like, holy cow, it's cold. It's 53 degrees. Like I went to New York City and it was like -9. And like you couldn't walk a city block without having to drop into like a coffee shop because I was getting frostbite on my face and my ears. Like it was so cold.
Oh, you got the Tom Coughlin when it gets too cold.
Yeah.
Face
I
is really
get
red.
the red. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think everyone was that way. I mean, it was so cold. Like it wasn't
Dude, I went
comfortable.
to the All-Star game in Dallas. It was snowing.
Black ice. Come on, man.
Yeah.
I think
Thought I was
I
gonna
honestly
die
do
there.
think they're gonna and this is the sad thing about it. I think they're gonna go back to the Bay Area soon.
Oh yeah. They'll go to Chase.
By the time they announce it, it'll be like 25 years since they've been. Yeah, they'll go there before they come to the Bay Area or to Sacramento.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Well, Chase Center, Vegas.
I can go back to Vegas. We'll be live.
They gonna do Allegiant? You think they'll do Allegiant, or will they just go to Thomas and Matt or
they'll do
MGM?
They'll do Allegiant.
You think so?
Yeah, they'll do Allegiant. They did Jerry's World.
They did. That's the one I nearly died at.
Oh my gosh!
Van hits the turn, snowing, black ice everywhere. I would say we were on 3 wheels. Might have been on 1 wheel at that point. I was just like, well, this is it. This is it. Steadies the vehicle. Not used to driving in this weather. You don't say. You don't say. All right, it's cool.
That's one thing I miss about not traveling. I do miss, like, I was in New Orleans and an 85-year-old woman picked me up and drove me around town, and she said if she stays home, that the grandkids drop the great grandkids off and leave them there with her all day. So she just tells everybody she's going to go do her driving, and was an Uber driver. I miss the Uber drivers. They're the best. Like in every city you go to, you're just meeting new people and like sitting in someone's car and hanging out.
That's tremendous. Yeah, that's
a
tremendous.
Good life.
James, this is the best. I'll play along here. First half of basketball.
There you go.
First part, but fine. It's first half of basketball you've ever covered as a reporter, as a writer. I think. I don't remember if it was this. I know this question was asked of Monty a couple of days ago, but when did you think, hey, I think we got something here? At what point in the first part of this season did you think, I think we might have something here?
Yeah, he talked about the Utah game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like, you keep waiting for the moment for it to end. I think that's something that we're conditioned here in Sacramento. I'll tell you the moment against Dallas on Saturday. That was a moment where De'Aaron Fox said, "I am a star," and of all the moments of his career, that was one that I think was just stunning to watch. And it was yeah, they've got 2 superstars. Well, what am I? And he just went out there. He was the best player on the court. And so I can tell you, Fox has had a bunch of great moments. Sabonis has had a bunch of great moments. They've had good moments as a team. Getting a win like that against a rival that's right on your tail, that if you lose that game, you're looking at not being the 4th seed going into, not being the 3rd seed going into the All-Star break. I keep waiting all the time for that moment where it's like, oh great, they just lost 5 in a row. Here we go again. Let's see if they bounce back. And that's just because, again, we've been preconditioned here for failure, so many years of failed experiments, and this team keeps plugging away. And so I think that that's cool to watch them have some resiliency and to show that they can, do do something that no one else has done here for 16 years.
Yeah, no, it's very cool to see. There is some really good moments from this first half. Like when you go back and you look back on, the buzzer beaters or some reactions from home games. I don't know if this is when I knew they were real, but it feels like the earliest moment when I felt this way was that Detroit game and the way they came back and the way they won that game, the one at home. I guess that's probably when I started to believe in what I have deemed the superpower. I was like, oh, these guys, they don't play defense, but they gonna score. And if you can't stop them from scoring, they gonna bring you out into the deep waters and they gonna get you. That's what happened. Detroit played a great game. They played a great game offensively that game. Like Kevin Knox was hitting threes. They were hitting, but they couldn't do it for the whole game.
There were some excited people in the front row for that game.
There were some excited people in the front row who were sitting very sheepishly come the last 4 or 5 minutes.
Probably because they read your derogatory tweet.
Well, I didn't talk to him like I did Devin Booker.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Yeah, I'd say this. Going back and looking at the schedule, it's so early in the season, but the 7-game win streak was so improbable early in the year. So you saw them. They beat Orlando in overtime, but that only put them at 3-5. Then they lost to the Warriors the next game, and dropped to 3-6. And you looked at the schedule, and it was Cleveland, Lakers, Warriors, Nets, and just those 4 right there. I thought, okay, this could be 5 straight losses. Mm-hmm. And even like the thought sunk in right there, like, will they ever get back to 500? Will they ever have an opportunity? Because again, if you lose those games, and again, Cavs, Lakers, Warriors, Nets, those 4 games, that puts you at like 3-10 on the season. 7 games under 500 is really hard to come back from. And, after that, you had the Spurs, you had the Pistons, but even the 7th game in that series was the Grizzlies. And that might have been the moment where it's like, okay, this team does have some resiliency. They do have some oomph. They walked, they beat a really good Cavs team. They beat the Lakers, and even the game against Brooklyn where they dropped like 150. That was the one where you're like, holy cow, this team has so much offensive firepower. And we kept looking at the stats even then, like, oh, their offense is really good. This is kind of weird. And I even remember saying, like, the advanced stats said that their offense was way better than a top 10, because right then they were 10 or 11 in offensive rating. I kept telling you guys, like, the true shooting numbers are number 1 by such a far shot. The effective field goal percentage, the assist to turnover ratio, all of those things had them as a much better offense than what they were as far as like the overall statistics said. And then all of a sudden they clicked and they started just rolling on teams, and you're like, oh wow, look at this team go. So maybe that was when I like, oh, okay, maybe they have something here. But, again, you're waiting as someone who's covered this team forever for the shoe to drop, the other shoe to drop like all the time. You're like, okay, when's this going to end? Because I'm not used to this.
Hey, this is an exciting. I'm just thinking back in my head as we talk about this. They've had a lot of exciting moments. Remember in Cleveland, they finished the game on a 19-0 run. They come back. They were down 9 with like 3 minutes to go.
Yeah.
Finished the game on a 19-0 run to win the game. Like you got that. Obviously, you got.
I mentioned this, that Laker game, which was a part of that seven game win streak. Like,
De'Aaron
to me, that was like De'Aaron is, De'Aaron's that dude. Like, he willed them to that game, to win that game. And
he's talking that talk afterwards too.
Young Cole brings up a good one. That Denver split.
Mm-hmm.
On December 27th and 28th was phenomenal. I mean, obviously they lost one of those games, but just phenomenal to come back and win the second one.
Yeah, it's so hard when you cover a team daily. Like, I mean, I think all of us, our brains work differently. Like, you guys know John Dickinson, 95.7 the game. John Dickinson can, like, his recall for like like crazy stats for specific games and specific dates is absolutely crazy. And so like all of us like process games differently. And when you're covering a team and you're there every day and everything, like they blend in together, they roll in together because you have to, just like the team, you can't worry about what happened yesterday. You have to move on, right? Like, so if they string a losing streak of 5 games, which they haven't done, if they start having like this elongated losing streak, then you look at more as a collective than you do as individual games. Or when they start winning all these games in a row, which is something that, again, I haven't covered in my years. Like I hadn't seen a 7-game win streak. The team hadn't won 7 in a row since like 2003, 2004, something like that. So like you don't really have time to process each loss or each win. You just go on to the next one. And that's why I'm still not in a mode where I'm 100% like guaranteed like this team is going to finish at this point in the standings, and I'm just not. But at least in the now, they've been resilient. They can take a punch, they can deliver a punch, they win tight ball games. They're 3-0 in overtime. They've got like an elite closer, an elite big man. They've they're fun. And that's why I like to live in the moment more than like look at the whole thing, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, question for both of you guys. Can you guys remember the game that snapped the game with a 7-game winning streak? Who they lose to?
Atlanta.
Oh, that's phenomenal knowledge by Ham.
In Atlanta?
In Atlanta.
Oh, they were just asleep that day. Yeah.
Yeah.
That day.
I wanted the Kevin Huerter revenge game so bad. Yeah, they were like, that was one of those games from jump where you're like, oh.
And didn't they win a road game before that? And it was like, oh, they got that first one on the road. I forgot who that was against.
I could look. I have this.
No, the Atlanta game is where they
beat Memphis.
They beat Memphis.
Oh, yeah.
They beat Memphis the night before.
Right. Then they went to Atlanta and lost. Yeah. Good times.
Good times.
It ain't over. It's not over, Ham. They're going.
Well, they lost because they only scored 106 points, and the rule is you got to get to 114.
How many they scored last night?
Wasn't 114. I know that. 109.
Score.
5 more points, they would have won. The math doesn't check out in that, but if they had gotten to 114, they wouldn't have lost. That's what the
score. Like I said over the weekend,
these are the real scores.
You're not gonna beat the Kings by trying to outscore them.
That's right. That's expert analysis. That's
facts.
Was it Trent Dilfer who said you can't lose in the NFL and win games? Was that? I can't remember if that was Trent Dilfer or not.
Did you see during the Super Bowl week when Trent Dilfer was talking crazy about all the quarterbacks?
No.
And they pulled up that clip of him in the Super Bowl.
Oh goodness.
Hey, he had a wide open receiver, like as wide open as you can imagine somebody down the field, and he threw it 10 yards into the sideline.
I hate to see it.
Oh,
man. You can't lose games in the NFL and win. That's how it works.
Science.
Oh man,
science, baby.
put me on ESPN right now, man. I got it down pat, man.
That's science, baby. Kings got the Portland Trailblazers coming out of the break. We'll have plenty of time to talk. Are you excited about All-Star? Like you don't really you'll get a couple of days off, but you got to work Saturday, you got to work Sunday. I mean, you've got to work All-Star weekend for the first time in a while. I mean, outside of Buddy's 3-point shooting, you've got duties this weekend.
Yeah, I'm not going. So like once you've been to a couple of All-Stars, you're like, okay, it plays out better on TV than it does like any other medium. So like all of the, the interviews and stuff, it's all shared information. There's no one-on-ones. There's no like moments with players or anything else. We're going to ask them the same questions there as we did the last 2 weeks here in Sacramento. And so like, will I cover it? Yeah, I'll watch it. I'm not going to like sit there and write a recap of the 3-point shootout unless Kevin Huerter wins. I probably won't do a write-up on the Rising Stars unless Keegan is the MVP. But I still like you can appreciate it. Like, I like the fact that they're there. I think my biggest takeaway, my biggest hope for this weekend is that Fox gets, really gets to enjoy the weekend. He's been through like the darkest times that any player could possibly go through being here in Sacramento all this time. And so I'm looking forward to him having a weekend where him and the wife and the baby and mom and, everyone gets to take in All-Star weekend and really like be embraced as an All-Star, because he has been a star this year.
Buddy Hield, the betting favorite to win the.
He's a hell of a 3-point shooter.
He is.
He's a hell of a 3-point shooter.
He ain't winning though.
He might win.
He ain't winning. I'm giving it to Kevin Huerter.
It's like Buddy's
Kevin
either
or Dame. Tyrese might win it though too. Lauri Markkanen might win.
Lauri Markkanen might win that. Just tell Markkanen he's playing against the Kings. He'll get some buckets.
They're playing against anybody this year.
Yeah, man, that dude's crazy.
He could be in the dunk contest if you tell me playing against anybody.
I totally recommend fans go to an All-Star game. It's a blast. It's a blast as a fan, but as a reporter, like, number one, there's too many reporters, so there's not enough seats. Like, there is no personal time with the players. It's chaotic. I mean, even if you get a player for post game, it might be 90 seconds with the player. And then, like DeMarcus got traded on, and that ruined like his All-Star stuff. Yeah, it's just really wild.
It's definitely fun to do like once. If you get the opportunity to go like one time, and I don't think you'll ever feel like, oh, I've got to go again. Like you'll enjoy it like the one time.
I'll go a few times, depending on the city.
Well, and that's okay. We'll send you to Indianapolis next year.
Depending on the city.